And Rob, of course, earlier this week, Monday, was it Monday or was it last Monday? I don't know how long it's been now.
Yeah,
but
no,
Brandon Staley finally fired. Yeah, it was last Monday. Fired by the LA Chargers. They are one of the more talented teams in the league and one of the most disappointing teams in the league. 5-9, will not make the playoffs. I didn't pick them to make the playoffs because I thought that they were poorly coached, and that turned out to be right. And now, Rob, everybody's wondering who's going to be the next coach. And Rob G, there are a lot of reports out there. Why don't you fill us in with what's going on out there?
Sure. So earlier this week, the Spanos were addressing the hiring situation, and they said they would be willing to come out of pocket in a big way if it meant getting the right guy in Los Angeles to coach Justin Herbert and the Chargers. So obviously it's been a talking point across all of sports media. On the latest edition of the New Heights podcast, Travis Kelce addressed the idea of Bill Belichick coming to the Chargers, and he shot it down quickly, saying that he doesn't want a good coach to come into his division. Get the F out of here. I hope they hire some jabroni, man. Like, he doesn't want to see Bill Belichick there. And coincidentally, later on Wednesday afternoon, Bleacher Report's Jordan Schultz reported that Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh has interest in the Chargers head coaching job, but not sure right now, quote, if the feeling is mutual. So,
and he might be looking for an NFL job too, Chris,
absolutely,
with another investigation from the NCAA on Michigan.
Right. It's really interesting, Rob. Both of these guys, obviously good coaches. Of the two, and look, the problem to me, or a big part of the problem with the Chargers, is the way they're run. And we know the owner's son is heavily involved. And, is he going to cede power? Will Belichick want, to run the whole show? Heck, Harbaugh could want that too. Remember, Harbaugh left San Francisco, Rob. They were wildly successful. And he left because he had issues with the front office. They had disputes. And so both of these guys may want power. I think Harbaugh definitely would. And people might be surprised that I think Belichick might not, just because in New England, Rob, I don't see any way Bill Belichick settles just for coaching, right? You've heard people say, well, this offseason, I would try to get him to give up the GM and front office duties and just coach. I even think that could be the way they approach it, but he won't accept. I can't imagine he'd accept that. But in another organization, maybe he will. It's harder sometimes to accept a quote-unquote demotion in your own place, which he built into a dynasty. Whereas if he goes somewhere else, maybe he's fine with just coaching. But putting all that aside, just looking at these two guys, which one, if I'm the Chargers, which coach would I rather have? Again, both of them very good. Both of them have been successful. But I'm going to say Belichick. And I've got my questions about Belichick and some doubts. But the thing I know about Belichick, if I'm the Chargers, Rob, and I bring him in, one thing I definitely know is my defense is going to be good. My defense will turn around pretty much immediately. He's a great defensive mind. He showed that throughout his career, even before he was a head coach. And so I'd have full confidence in that. And then I'd be like, look, I've got Justin Herbert. He's a great quarterback. I think offensively we'll be able to figure it out. And so I would look at Belichick. I get that Harbaugh's great with quarterbacks, so there's something there. But I think their defense is a huge need, and I think Belichick would answer that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that it sounds like it would be perfect because you already have a quarterback, and Justin Herbert, you just need somebody, not have Matt Patricia calling plays. Or
that's the thing. Don't
as
bring
long
in
as it's not Matt Patricia,
right.
But he can play. But the defense, you just got to get that defense fixed. You got playmakers there, so Belichick, that makes sense. It sounds logical. And you make it or you massage it, Chris, so that people don't, so that Bill Belichick, we want your input on whatever, but we're going to have this guy here. This guy here, Bill Jones, is a smart guy, football guy. This is his background. He's going to be working with you on the selection of players. And do you know what I mean? Like you
and
make
he might, like I said, right? He might, I mean, I'm sure he wants to catch Shula in all-time wins. He needs I don't know how many it is at this point, about 14 or 15 wins maybe. And obviously he'd love to win another Super Bowl. So maybe he'd be willing to just focus on that, Rob. They already have some talent. You know what I mean? So the cupboard's not bare. It's not like he has to build them into, a talented team.
And Chris, here's the other thing. You're right, and here's the other thing. He wants Shula's record. He has to go somewhere where they're going to be winning, and he can't do a rebuild for 3 years and win 4 games a year and then still be short, and now he's 75 or whatever he is. Like seriously, there's got to be some selfishness there where you're like, where's the place I can go and win right away if I get that defense fixed? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're trying to do that, you got to think in those terms at that age.
Yeah, he'll be 72 in April, Rob. And so you're right. Like he needs to win pronto. And look, we talked about Kellen Moore. He's the OC for the Chargers. And we talked about, would Belichick be willing to keep him? And that's the thing. Like it has been a bad year we talked about it a few weeks ago, and I'm thinking, well, you definitely want to keep Kellen Moore. But Justin Herbert, and I'm not saying it's all Kellen Moore. I don't know. But he's taken a step back this year. In every way, he's taken a step back.
Chris, I totally agree. 100%. Like, he's not, to me, he dropped to a second-tier quarterback.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. No doubt. So, I don't want Patricia, Bill O'Brien, who's been good historically, but he hasn't done anything in New England this year. I don't know. That'd be interesting. I wouldn't be opposed. I kind of might want to keep Kellen Moore, but it would be up to Belichick. It's his staff. I'll say this, Rob. While I would prefer Belichick with the Chargers because of the defense, if I'm Belichick, I think Buffalo, assuming Sean McDermott is gone, and maybe he won't be, but I really like Buffalo for Belichick. Now, again, New England, it had to essentially be a trade or something. So I don't see them doing that. But if it could happen, again, improve that defense, Rob, and you've got a great quarterback. And I think they could be very good. They're already very good, but they could really be a contender right away with Belichick.
Buffalo, yeah, you would think so. If I'm Buffalo, though, or if I'm New England, I'm not sure I want him to go to Buffalo.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I'm sure I don't.
Yeah. So I just
you got to see him every year in the division.
Like send him to the West Coast. That's all good. You
right.
know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm not so sure that's the spot he's going to wind up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Rob. It really is going to be interesting to see where he ends up. Would you have problems with Harbaugh with the Chargers?
It's not problems. I don't know.
He's been really good with quarterbacks, as we know, in the NFL.
Just hasn't won the big one. You're trying to win a Super Bowl eventually. And Jim Harbaugh, that's his only bugaboo. He's taken teams and they've turned around. They've been good, Chris. Like, he can't get them to win one. He went to the Super Bowl with the 49ers. They won a couple, 3 NFC championship games. They went to the Super Bowl one. They lost. He lost to his brother, right?
Yep.
Baltimore won when the lights went out and all that. So it's Harbaugh would be a good second choice, but I think if I'm really the Chargers who are trying to build a fan base, trying to win, got a quarterback in place, got some playmakers, like this thing is going to come undone soon, Chris, in the next year or so.
Yep.
And you don't have time to waste. It's got to be somebody of that ilk who can, come in and make the necessary adjustments. On paper, they're loaded. People were thinking about them being in the mix in the AFC.
And a lot of people Rob may be thinking, go get a young offensive mind, a Mike McDaniel, somebody like that, a Matt LaFleur. And that's all well and good, but there's no guarantee on those guys. They thought they were getting that with Brandon Staley. I get it that he was a defensive coach, supposedly, but still, right? It was the hot young guy, that is unproven until he's proven. And so you always take a risk with that, Rob.
And they can't do it anymore.
Right?
They can't. They just did it. You can't break somebody else in. You can't go another 3 years. No, you can't do it. They are in a situation where they got to stop being cheap, go out, make the move, do what you got to do to secure you a coach that has a pedigree and that can get you to where you want. And if you don't do it soon or enough, like trying to win the fan base here, you already have a hard time. Your home games are dominated by
games.
Oh yeah, a road game dominated by the opponent's fans. I mean,
Right.
That's a real thing that you have to try to shake.
Rob G, you had a comment or question?
Just a question for you, because you guys are saying about the Chargers, and there's a reason why they're in on guys like Jim Harbaugh and Bill Belichick, because it's considered to be a plum job, primarily because of the presence of Justin Herbert.
Right.
However, as of right now, of December 20th, they are about $40 million over the 2024 cap. Now, we know the salary cap is a myth. You can move things around. But here's the tricky thing. 58% of their 2024 salary cap is tied to Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen. That's not factoring Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett being free agents. So, if you get there, there's a chance that this star-studded roster is not the same next season. Is it still that attractive with Justin Herbert and guys?
Well, having the quarterback is huge, right? Because, and we talked about it last week, that's the hardest thing to get. So they do have that. I certainly, Bosa, maybe he'd have to go. Eckler being a running back, maybe he'd have to go. And I like Eckler a lot, but, I think I can find a running back. I definitely want to keep Keenan Allen. I think, we saw in New England, I get it, Mac Jones is not Justin Herbert. But I think one of the problems with Mac Jones in New England was that they didn't give him any weapons. And Belichick has, that's been him throughout his career. He had Brady, who could play well with, guys that weren't superstars for the bulk of his career. But I would want to keep Keenan. Mike Williams is great, but he's hurt all the time. So I hear what you're saying, Rob G. Like I said, I think Buffalo is a little more ready-made if I'm Belichick, but I still think having the quarterback and being a great defensive coach, those are two huge things. And so I think they get that immediately if Belichick goes there.